if you're listening today, or if you're listening to a recorded version, it's probably because you have Hadoop, right? And so for those of us maybe with gray hair that have had Hadoop or managed Hadoop in the past, I mean, we there were some good times, right? And so this isn't about necessarily bashing Hadoop, right? To some degree, we went there for a reason. It served its purpose. And for a lot of us, you're either wondering, where do I go from here? Maybe there's some specific challenges we'll discuss today that the drivers for why you might want to change. And then for others, there may be more urgency. You may need to immediately get off because you are dealing with some bigger challenges that are more immediate. And so if those are the reasons why you've joined, you're at the right place. Let's jump right into the conversation. Let's take a look at that history, right? And so as I said earlier, I think for a lot of us, if we go back and remember kind of the early Hadoop days, it was a good tool. It was a good product, right? For a long time, if you're kind of going up to the hype, if you will, the kind of the top level of Hadoop activity back in kind of 2015 or so, it was a good product that delivered a lot of what we needed at that time from a data warehouse. The capabilities that were built into it were tuned for a lot of the use cases that we were really working with kind of in the early 2000s. And so it was a good product. It served us well. The challenges started to come kind of thereafter, soon after kind of 2015, as other options started to emerge. A lot of us really started to struggle with performance. Some of us also started to struggle with cost. And as those cost and performance challenges became more apparent, especially for those teams with big data sets, a lot of teams started to really move off Hadoop, right? And so you started to kind of see that migration of Hadoop starting right about that time frame. Now, for many teams, though, they stayed on Hadoop. It was still good enough, right? The cost and the performance, that was maybe something we said we could deal with. We can live with that. Fast forward to today. If you look at where we are today, it's not just about the raising costs. It's not just about the challenges and with performance. It's also about the delays to innovation, right? Can I continue to deliver innovation? Can I drive a competitive advantage for my business on this Hadoop environment? Yes, it's expensive. Yes, it's slow. But now the bigger pain point might be is that it's just not the right platform for me to kind of drive forward. And so the conversation today really is about how we, and where, I should say, where we move forward to, and what does that modern architecture look like? Let's take a look at the challenges that I described and see if you recognize some of these, right? The cost challenge is really driven by the volumes of data and the variety of use cases. You've got a lot of different data sets starting to move into Hadoop. And so you've got cost issues just with storage, but you also have cost issues with the work required to maintain those data sets, so the work required to model those data sets. In the older Hadoop environment that was built kind of for and primed for Hadoop clusters, it doesn't take advantage of some of the more modern capabilities that we have, either with the cloud architecture or even our more current Dell on-premise architectures. And so you're really left behind and you're really having to work in an unoptimized environment. So cost is a problem. Performance is an issue when you start really thinking about concurrency. There was a time when we built these environments, and we primarily built them for a couple of teams, or we built these environments to support data models for a handful of applications. Today, we're building data platforms for people. We're building data platforms for applications, for BI dashboards, for AI analytics. And so there are a lot of different teams coming at these same environments. Concurrency is important. You want the ability to enable a lot of people to have access to the data they need very quickly. And that's just accessing existing data models. But here's the real challenge. It's how do I access new data? How do I build new models? And that leads me to the third challenge, which is delayed innovation. One of the biggest demands that we're seeing now, if you're a data engineering team or if you're a data architecture team, is trying to really respond to so many different teams, trying to do so many different things with the same data. Now, they're using the same data, and so you believe, well, here it is. Can't you just use it like this? But the reality is your data science teams, they want raw data. They want raw data for those AI solutions. And maybe your application teams or maybe some of your reporting teams, they want data structured a certain way. And so there really isn't one way to model data for everyone. What you really want and what you're looking for in an architecture is the ability to be agile, is the ability to respond with speed and the ability to respond with quality. And so fast forward to what we're looking at today, is how do I get there, right? How do I move from the Hadoop environment that worked really well for me years ago, but now it's time? How do I get off of it and where do I go? And I think when we start thinking about what that journey looks like, first and foremost, it's your journey. Every journey is different. For some of us, that journey may be staying on prem. For others, that journey may be getting to the cloud or staying in the cloud. And for a lot of us, that's a hybrid journey. I've got both. I've got cloud and I've got on-prem. And so how do I really deal with this? What am I looking to do? So if you're already in the cloud or if you're looking to get in the cloud, your journey from Hadoop is largely should take you to a Starburst cloud lakehouse environment. It's leveraging Starburst capabilities as an independent compute engine. Remember I talked about those rising costs? Part of the reason why those costs were going up and part of the reason why many people were locked into those costs was because you had a compute engine that was locked into the storage engine. With Starburst, you've got an independent compute engine. We don't care where you store your data. We don't care what cloud it's in. We don't care what object storage environment it's in. We don't even care what table format you want to use, although we do like Iceberg. We offer you the ability in the cloud, in your cloud, to create a lakehouse environment on top of the lakes you already have. It's a great opportunity for you to improve your existing Hadoop environment, leverage your existing clouds, or move into a low-cost cloud environment with the lakehouse architecture on top of it. Still, for others, and this is a reality that many of us have finally come to terms with, for a lot of us, it's we have data that's going to have to stay on-prem. It may never move off-prem. And so whether you're in banking or whether you're in another area where a lot of that on-prem data, maybe healthcare is your reality, you have the opportunity with Starburst and with Dell to leverage an on-premise architecture, an appliance. The opportunity to then take your existing Hadoop environment and replace it with Starburst and Dell and build that lakehouse architecture on-prem with all of the advantages, the higher concurrency, the better performance, the lower costs, all the advantages that you need to deliver for your business teams. Still, for I think most of us, the reality is going to be you need both. Many of us are in the cloud. Some of us are multi-cloud, but so many of us still are in the cloud and on-prem. And as I said a second ago, the reality is that data that's on-prem is going to stay on-prem. And so when we start thinking about a modern architecture, I don't want you to think about just moving from one spot to another. It's the wrong way to think about this. When you think about that architecture strategy and you start thinking about how to make it sustainable, what you really should be thinking about is how do I connect all my different data sources? How do I leverage all of my existing lakes? It's not a lake house. It may be lake houses in the cloud. It may be lake houses on-prem with the ability to federate and connect across all those different lake environments. So if you're a consumer, if I'm your customer and I'm sitting on the business side and I want data, I don't have to worry about waiting for that data to be migrated. I don't have to worry about looking for the data. I have access to the data that I need in raw format. Maybe it's in the lake, or if I need it structured in some specific modeled way, then I can access it from a warehouse perspective. That lakehouse gives you the ability to do both for your business teams. And again, don't forget the strategies you're looking for here. The sustainable strategy is to accept that you're going to have to integrate across a lot of different environments. So what does that look like from a Starburst perspective? I've said a couple of things and I want to underscore them. One of the things that I said just a second ago was really an independent compute engine. You don't want to be locked into one approach. You want the ability to pick and select what's the right table format? What is the right file format? Where is the best object storage? Do I want to store on-prem? Do I want to store in the cloud? All of these choices should be your choices, and you should be able to make them based on your strategy. Is it a cost strategy? Is it a cloud strategy? Is it a business strategy? Is all the above? And so as you start to make those strategies, what really works well is when you can trust a central compute engine that's going to work across all those different environments. There's a lot out there, certainly from a Starburst perspective, when we talk about Starburst and Iceberg. We call it the Ice House. There's an incredible capability there. There's a powerful partnership there that really started at the beginning of that kind of Iceberg evolution, Iceberg and Trino. And that's an opportunity for us. It's something we really like to talk about, but it's not all we talk about. We can also work with the other formats, whether that's Delta or whether that's Hootie. And so again, happy to work with the environment that you have and happy to start working with you to integrate those different environments. Now, I know there's a lot of we have a very technical audience today, right? If you're managing Hadoop, it's probably because you're pretty technical. And so I know you're really looking for kind of a deeper lens. When you take that deeper lens into Starburst, you need to understand first and foremost that we're much more than just a compute engine, right? We're a full-featured platform. A full-featured platform in the sense that we offer you the security capabilities built in that you're looking for. We offer catalogs. We offer you the ability to drive security and governance across your data assets. Oftentimes, when we're trying to integrate into an ecosystem, you don't want to reinvent. And so for a lot of our customers, it's about integrating with the existing solutions they have. And so with Starburst, you also have the ability to integrate with a number of different third-party solutions, whether they be governance solutions or security solutions or access control solutions. There's a number of third-party vendors that we work with to make sure that we can fit into your ecosystem. If this were a different talk track, I would talk for 2 hours about data products. Data products is something that we offer that I would say is kind of best in class. When you start to think about your modernization journey and you start to kind of figure out how you're going to replace the existing capabilities, do them faster, do them at a lower cost, drive them with greater agility, I guarantee you part of that conversation is going to include data products. When you start to talk to business teams about how they get data, and you start to offer them data products as a way to better understand data, as a way to share data, as a way to save time and reuse data, that's the type of business impact that you're really looking for. And so again, there's another session. I hope you'll tune in. We'll talk more about data products, but it should be a big part of the strategy you're thinking about as part of your modernization journey. So let's take a look at this again. So we talked about cost. We talked about performance. We talked about innovation. Let's look at some numbers, right? Our approach is 1/3 the TCO of what you may already be paying for in a Hadoop environment. That's considerable cost savings. And that cost savings are great. That's not why we do this. We do this because we're 10 times faster, better performance, much lower cost. And it's not just better performance for a couple of teams. It's better performance and lower cost for a lot of teams, high concurrency. You're now going to be able to open up access to data for a lot more people in a secure way, in a way that integrates with your existing ecosystem, in a way that connects your hybrid environment. All right, so what does your modernization journey look like? And so where you start really depends on your broader strategy. And so I don't like to jump in and say, let's go from Hadoop to the cloud overnight. That may not be your approach. For a lot of organizations, and this is true for a lot of the customers that I work with, they're quite happy with the data they have stored in Hadoop. And there are some teams that may be okay, may be happy with the performance they're getting with Hadoop. Problem is you have a lot of other teams that aren't. And so that's the challenge for an architecture leader is how do I balance the two things? How can I deliver innovation for these other teams while making sure that I'm not disrupting these teams that don't want any changes? And oftentimes the best approach, the best way to solve that problem is to leverage your existing HDFS environment, your Hadoop storage, and just put an independent compute engine on top of it. Starburst on top of HDFS can give you a lot of the capabilities I just described, the lower cost, the higher performance, the better concurrency. You're getting that ability just by implementing Starburst as your compute engine. And for all the existing solutions that are already built on Hadoop that don't want to change, they can continue to run in the background on that legacy environment, on the current environment. And so it kind of gives you the best of both worlds. It's a great first step, and it's a nice balance for you to kind of get moving with the teams that want to, while still allowing other teams some time to kind of figure out what they want to do. Now, that might be your first step. For another organization, oops, sorry about that, going the wrong direction. For other organizations, their first step might be immediately to modernize. We want to get off Hadoop. We're on-prem, we want to get off, and we want to stay on-prem. What's our best approach? Starburst with Dell is your best approach. Now you're not upgrading the storage environment to a more high performant, lower cost storage environment, replacing HDFS. And you're also replacing the compute engine with Starburst. And so now you're taking a bigger step. And again, you're able to deliver immediate capabilities to those new teams. And you can start to migrate the older teams, if you will, that maybe still Hadoop. You can move their workloads one at a time into this new environment. But now you've got a truly modern approach to addressing your on-prem solutions. If you're in the cloud, you might be ready to go. And maybe you're on-prem and in the cloud, as I suggested earlier. And if now it doesn't matter what cloud you're in, now we're talking about a very powerful cloud-based lakehouse engine. A lakehouse engine based on S3, a lakehouse engine based on any one of your object storage environments in the cloud. You get the benefit of lower cost, you get the benefit of that reliability you get in the cloud, but you also get the benefit of Starburst compute engines kind of operating at kind of a very scalable fashion, so to speak. Now, you're not sacrificing any scalability on-prem, but for teams that have a lot of data in the cloud, having that scalability in the cloud is really the best choice for you. Fantastic. It's your journey. You start with where kind of what makes sense for you. How does Starburst help? Let's take a look at these points that I've described a little bit. Let's go a little kind of, as from a summary perspective, let's kind of walk over them again. First and foremost, we're looking to modernize your architecture. And there's a couple different ways to do that. I said, first and foremost, we can really look at kind of replacing that compute engine with Starburst as a first step. We said, if you're ready to move off onto a more modern on-prem architecture, Dell is a way to go. Starburst plus Dell provides you the exact right appliance, the exact right environment you need to kind of get that performance and the cost and to drive the innovation you're looking for. And if you're also looking to move into the cloud or leverage existing cloud resources, Starburst on top of an existing lake, Starburst with your lake architecture with Iceberg or your table format of choice affords you the ability to very quickly take advantage of the even broader capabilities in the cloud. Scale beyond the data warehouse. I'll underscore this. I showed it a couple of slides ago, but I want to make sure that we're all on board with this concept. We're not trying to, and sometimes we look at replacing a single Hadoop environment. We're like, oh, great, I'm going to move into another single environment. Hybrid's the reality, right? And so you have to plan for the acceptance that in this new warehouse world, in this new lakehouse solution, you're going to have multiple lakehouses. You're going to have different lakes, and you're going to have teams that want access to data in the lake, and you're going to have other teams that want the house data, if you will, right? And so that's a really powerful capability when you can sit in front of your business teams and say, it doesn't matter where the data is. We have the ability to connect to that data. And you already have a finance lake, great. We're going to turn that into a finance lake house. You have your retail lake, great. We're going to turn that into a retail lake house. You have a customer lake, great. Leveraging the existing lake environments that you have today, where they sit, and creating a lake house environment in front of them, and then having the ability to integrate them. That's what we really want. That's a powerful platform, the platform your business teams need to succeed. And then lastly, it's really about creating a sustainable architecture. We don't know where data is going to come from next. We don't know if there is a new cloud entering your environment. We don't know if there is a new on-prem location entering your environment. You want the flexibility to be able to grow from an architecture perspective. You want the flexibility to be able to add new data from wherever it comes. And you need the flexibility, or I should say the agility, to discover that data once it comes on board. And in Starburst, that's really what we're about, right? From an agility perspective, a lot of our clients love our ability to discover data. Let me sit down with a business team in a room and let me start looking at data sets. Let me start querying data sets. Let me start building data products. Let me start leveraging data in the lake where it sits today. Let me start building lake houses with that data. Let me start accelerating kind of business success. And so the ability to sustain your future architecture changes is a really big part of the story. Fantastic. I wanted to kind of lead and close with a couple of use cases or a couple of examples. And I can barely see the chat from where I'm talking. So I think there may be some comments in the chat. I hope that you are asking questions. And if you're watching a recorded version of this, please drop me a LinkedIn or send me an email. Happy to kind of address any questions. And if I don't know the answer, I'll probably ask one of my friendly geniuses like Fab to kind of help on with some of the questions. But I want to close up with a couple of examples, a couple of customer examples. And so this was an example where we really were focused on that Hadoop engine, really focused on replacing that Hadoop engine at Optum. Um, it's a nice, easy way to go forward. It's kind of my favorite approach for teams that aren't really sure. I have a lot of customers, as I said, that they still have a lot of teams on Hadoop. And part of the challenge, the architecture might have been arguing for years to get off, but the business won't let them do it because the business wants to stay on. They don't want the change. Replacing that engine up front as a first step is a fantastic way to kind of get rolling with it. And then once you start to see the benefits, once the business team starts to really understand the speed and the performance and the cost, then it's easier to kind of get them into a new environment. This is another one, and I'm unable to show the actual logo for this one, but this one is really exciting. And this is one that I talk about quite a bit. This is really focused on an anti-money laundering organization within a large bank. If you can imagine, and you're leading AML for a large organization, and you can try to appreciate trying to get access to new data, right? And so you've got existing data in an environment, maybe it's a Hadoop environment as it was in this case. Discovering that data that's already there may not be so hard. But you're an AML team. You're trying to drive new algorithms. You're looking for new ways to detect fraud. You're looking for new data, and you're looking for new ways to model that data. And you need to do that with speed. You have an idea, it needs to be executed. The faster that you execute these ideas, these analytics ideas, the better you're able to maybe catch potential fraud, potential issue. Maybe you're driving a decision faster. And so in this approach, what we did, as very similar to the previous approach, is really just replacing that compute engine. But it's not just connecting to the existing HDFS data in Hadoop. It's also then giving them the ability with Starburst to connect to other data sets. And so now you've got a single portal with Starburst, fast compute engine, but you also have the ability to take what I've already got in Hadoop, HDFS, and now I've coupled that with the ability to bring and integrate any other data set that I need. And so what we've created for this group is just a really, really fast way to ideate, a very quick way, a very efficient way to discover new data, model new data. What if I do this? No, no, no. What if I do it this way? No, no, no. Oh, that's exactly what I want. Let me go drive the model forward. And so it's that ideation, that speed of delivery for the business. Ultimately, it kind of really, people really brag about, right? It's nice to get the lower costs. It's nice to have better performance. But if you're winning because your business teams are happy and they're getting what they want.